Recent meeting with the parents of some friends of mine. They're mid to late retirement. 3 financial planning strategies stood out. I'll explain that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. There's 6 areas to your financial life, my financial life, everyone's financial life. The big idea is you've got to look at all 6 of these areas when you're making big financial decisions, because most financial decisions are going to impact all of those areas. And you want to make choices, make decisions that bring synergy to them. Your present financial position, that's your cash flow, that's your net worth, right? That's where you currently stand financially. Protection planning, what are the big financial risks and how do you manage them? Insurance or being self-insured. Tax planning, that's different than tax preparation. Tax planning is being opportunistic, looking proactively at how you can pay the least amount of tax over your lifetime, even multiple lifetimes. 4th is investment planning. What are the investment strategies that are appropriate for your financial situation? 5th is retirement planning or long-term planning. And then 6th is estate planning. And what are your instructions, intentions if something happens to you or you need assistance, and do you have that spelled out? So those are the 6 areas to your financial life, and you can't make great decisions while looking at just one. You've got to look at how those choices influence all 6 of those areas. That's why we tell you, got to be working with a CFP who's doing comprehensive financial planning, who's looking at all 6 of those areas. Well, recently had a scenario where some friends of mine that are near retirement, they wanted us to meet with their folks, their parents. And these folks are mid to late stage retirement. And you might think, well, by the time you get out there, there's probably not many financial strategies that you need to consider. So financial planning, comprehensive financial planning, probably don't need that approach. I would definitely disagree, and I'll share this scenario, changing some of the details, and a few financial planning strategies that floated sort of right to the surface. So here's a scenario. They're in their early 80s. They draw on top of their Social Security. There's no pensions, so they live off of their Social Securities, and then they draw $1,500 a month out of their investments. Their investments total right now about $1.3 million. Half of the 1.3 is in IRAs, okay, and the other half is in a joint account. And the IRAs then, because of their age, they've got a required minimum distribution. That RMD is just under 40 grand a year, something like that. And they don't need it. Essentially, we are withholding the taxes, or they're withholding the taxes and move it to the joint account. And then they draw their $1,500 a month to supplement their Social Security out of that joint account. In their words, and this is key, in their words, we pay no taxes. Now, that's an exaggeration a little bit. There are state taxes in looking at it, but yeah, they're at a point where their RMD plus their Social Security, they're really not paying any federal taxes. They've got a standard deduction, the way Social Security, the way taxation is determined on Social Security, they're paying very little in federal taxes. They're paying some state taxes, but yeah, not a lot of taxes. They've got 4 kids that they're intending to leave their resources to. And the other key is their health is beginning to decline, right? And so, and they're aware of that. They're not denying it. And so they're needing some help. So that's the situation. And as we were looking at all 6 of their financial areas of their financial life and their financial goals and intentions, there were 3 financial strategies that stood out that they're not currently implementing. The first, and you might have thought of this, and that is Roth conversions. Roth conversion. So in their words, they're paying no tax, and yet between the 4 kids are going to inherit the $650,000 or so of IRA dollars whenever, whether that's in a few years or whether that's in another decade or whenever, the kids are going to inherit it. The kids, I told you, are later in their careers, but not yet retired. And so if the kids receive this money, each of them around $200,000 maybe, $175,000, $200,000, the kids will have to withdraw those dollars, do a required minimum distribution every year, and then empty the account within 10 years, and they'll have to pay taxes at their rates, which is likely not 0% where it is right now for mom and dad. So they've got to do their required minimum distribution, and you can't do a Roth conversion of your RMD. Okay, sorry for the jargon there, but hopefully you caught that. But that doesn't mean you can't do a Roth conversion above that. So the idea is do your required minimum distribution, do a trial run, we call it a tax projection. What do your taxes look like? And then start putting in, well, what if we did a Roth conversion of 20 grand? What if we did a Roth conversion of 30 grand? And you want to play with the numbers to see, well, what does that do to the taxation of Social Security? And then I would argue, more importantly, how much can you convert and get to the top of the 12% tax bracket? Because my sense would be that when the kids inherit the dollars, they're going to be at a minimum in the 12% tax bracket, possibly 15% tax bracket if the laws sunset. And very possibly kids are going to be paying 22% or 25% tax. So if mom and dad can convert some of these dollars and pay 12, 10, and 12%, and the dollars grow tax-free, that would be a win-win multi-generationally. So first strategy, Roth conversion. Second strategy, and it's connected to this, and that's contributing to 529 plans for grandkids. So think about this, or maybe even great-grandkids, depending on the situation. So we've already established $1.3 million, and they're living off of $1,500 a month. That's the draw off of it. So if one of them health is beginning to decline, it's very possible one of them could need assistance, long-term care, and so we need to be aware of that. And yet at the same time, contributing or shifting some of these dollars into a 529 plan actually does move those dollars outside of their estate. So in a way, there's a little bit of Medicaid planning, although that's sort of far from their minds. The big idea is, other than a long-term care sort of scenario, they're in a situation where it's extremely unlikely that they're going to spend through their assets during their lifetime. Therefore, how can they position these dollars for the family in a way that it lines up with their goals and intentions? And they would love to bless their grandkids and great-grandkids. So contributing, even if it's just a small amount, to these grandkids or great-grandkids' 529 plan is a way for them to shift some of these dollars into growing in a tax-sheltered way. $529, it's like a Roth, but for college. Contribution is after tax. All of the investment activity, capital gains, interest, dividends, it's all sheltered. And then if the money is used for college or qualifying educational expense, that growth it comes out tax-free. So instead of these folks keeping such a large amount in their joint account, they could be contributing a little bit to 529 plans for these grandkids or great-grandkids in sheltering those dollars from tax. Further, they live in Indiana, and in their words, they don't pay any tax. Well, I know they pay Indiana state and local taxes, it's just not a lot. But if we do a Roth conversion, then that is going to be taxable. And they're going to then have to pay Indiana state tax and local tax. And contributing to the Indiana College Choice 529 plan, they can get a tax credit of 20% on the first $7,500 that they contribute. So $1,500 of that tax that's created on their Roth conversion can be offset just by shifting some of the dollars into 529 plans for grandkids. So that's the second strategy that sort of just stood out to us. And the third one might be counterintuitive, but let me talk you through it. And that is, their investment strategy didn't seem appropriate for the time horizon for their dollars, okay? In their situation, they actually were taking medium to low risk, if you will, leading up to 2022. During 2022, they shared that they got concerned, they got frustrated, and they were nervous not only about how the market had declined, but also the bond market. And I'll just tell you, it doesn't make sense to anyone why the bond market has struggled as much as it has, especially for those in retirement, mid to late stage retirement. It's just hard to fathom. They've never seen the bond market crater the way that it has, and therefore they always thought bonds are these safe, steady investments, and they always have been until we've seen this significant short-term rise in interest rates. So that was very, very frustrating to them. And when they when they looked at the direction of the country, they said, we want to go low risk. And they went completely low risk, and now don't have any dollars in the market. In fact, it's all savings and CDs. That $1.3 million is all super low risk. And while that might help them sleep easy or feel comforted, what's the time horizon for their dollars? Well, $1,500 a month is short term, right? And so you can do the math on that and say, all right, for the next 3 years or even the next 5 years, here's how much cash we need to have in short-term, safe, steady investments. But a bulk of this $1.3 million, they're not going to touch in their lifetime. And then the kids would have to draw it out over a 10-year time period or within 10 years. But I would argue that a chunk of these dollars, maybe half, maybe more, could be considered longer term dollars and invested not for mom and dad's risk tolerance and time horizon, but rather the kids that will eventually inherit it. Now, mom and dad would need to be comfortable with this, because if they see volatility in their overall investments, they've got to be able to not panic and change course. They'd have to commit to this long-term strategy. But in this situation, yes, having a large chunk of dollars, low risk, makes sense for mom and dad, but the dollars that are deemed to be long-term and likely not going to be touched within 10 years or more, I would argue we should take not speculative risk, but take some diversified risk and invest those for the long term, since that's when they'll be used. There were more financial planning strategies that stood out beyond that. Doing beneficiary audit, updating an estate plan, and a few other things as well. But those were 3 that stood out. When we look at someone's financial situation, looking at all 6 areas of their financial life, the seemingly disconnected parts of your financial life, a trained eye, your certified financial planner, it's often like the strategies sort of levitate and just sort of come to life off the page when you see how certain things are connecting or should connect. So work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go on and take your next wise step in your financial life.